the galactic Concord had never known fear. For 10,000 cycles, its member species ruled the Orion Spiral, wielding fleets that darkened the skies of countless worlds. When the Concord named an enemy, that species vanished, erased from memory, culture, and even the official records of civilization. So when humanity rose from its small blue planet, burning with ambition and defiance, the Concord's High Council responded with familiar contempt. Grand Arbiter Vorel stood before the conclave dome, his skin a lattice of living silver filigree. "The Terrans," he proclaimed, voice amplified to a billion listeners, "are a contagion. They multiply without restraint, consume resources beyond reason, and wage war for sport." 100 delegates in their jeweled seats clicked and murmured approval. "Let it be decreed," Borlth continued, raising both six-fingered hands. "Humanity is hereby declared an existential adversary. All Concord fleets are authorized to neutralize Terran assets by any means." The vote was unanimous. From the moons of the Telnor Collective to the burning rings of Varese, the declaration spread, accompanied by images of Terran colonies and the faces of their leaders, marked with the sigil of eradication. And so began what the Concord called the cleansing of soul. At first, victory seemed assured. The Concord's dreadnought armadas assembled in the darkness beyond Neptune. Their hulls glimmered with exotic alloys, bristling with weapons whose names humans had never learned. 30,000 warships prepared to strike Earth, Mars, and every outpost in between. Aboard the flagship Luminous Oath, Grand Arbiter Vorlth watched as the final formations locked into position. "Transmit surrender demands," he ordered. Moments later, the human reply arrived, a single, terse transmission. "No." The first wave commenced with surgical precision. Concord dreadnoughts launched coordinated salvos of gravitic warheads and molecular destabilizers. Their strategists had modeled Terran defenses in thousands of simulations. None predicted the Terrans surviving past the first hour. Yet as the weapons closed on Earth orbit, the unexpected happened. From hidden arrays on Luna and the Martian moons, human countermeasures activated, interdiction fields of a design no Concord engineer had ever encountered. Gravity itself twisted, snapping warheads from their trajectories. Some detonated harmlessly in deep space. Others turned back, shredding Concord cruisers with their own payloads. On the Luminous Oath, the sensor feeds burst into static. Borlth's second-in-command, a chitin-armored Varesian, hissed in alarm. "They have defenses beyond our projections." Borlth clenched his metallic jaw. "Advance all lines. Crush them by sheer mass." But brute force would not save them. From the shadows of Jupiter's storms, a fleet of Terran warships emerged, sleek, black vessels built in secret. Humanity had not been idle while the Concord debated their annihilation. They called these ships retributors. And they had been waiting. The retributors moved with inhuman speed, deploying weaponry that redefined the limits of warfare, singularity projectors that collapsed Concord frigates into pinpricks of oblivion, swarms of autonomous drones that perforated dreadnought hulls, software phages that infected entire fleets' guidance systems. In one sector, a Concord cruiser formation turned upon itself, every vessel convinced the others were human decoys. In another, 20 dreadnoughts vanished into a corridor of artificial wormholes, never to reappear. Borlth watched in dawning horror as his perfect armada dissolved into chaos. "How can this be?" he whispered, voice raw. They were primitives. They were inferior. The Varesian officer's mandibles clicked in dread. "They have studied us. All our tactics, all our weapons, turned against us." The Grand Arbiter realized then that the humans had never intended to surrender. Every diplomatic envoy, every trade negotiation, had been camouflage. While the Concord mocked their ambition, humanity learned everything. And when the declaration of enmity came, they were ready. Within hours, the first wave was in full retreat. Concord commanders screamed for reinforcements. But by then, the retributors had pierced the Concord lines and advanced beyond Neptune, unstoppable as a tide. It was then the true nature of humanity's strategy revealed itself. They did not merely defend Earth. They intended retribution. The Concord's great citadel worlds, long believed inviolable, were next. At Varese Prime, planetary shields shimmered like a billion dying stars as Terran singularity lances cracked the crust. In the halls of the Council of Nine, the Varesian regents, once so eager to brand humanity and infection, were incinerated in a heartbeat. On Telnor, entire orbital cities were dismantled by self-replicating drones. Not slaughtered indiscriminately, merely disarmed, stripped of power, rendered unable to threaten again. Across every battlefield, the same message transmitted on all channels. You declared humanity your enemy. You made extinction your goal. We will not forget. By the time the luminous oath limped back toward the Concord's core worlds, the war was no longer a contest, it was an unraveling. Boral stood alone in the darkened strategy chamber, surrounded by fractured holograms. His voice cracked as he whispered into the calm, trying to find any surviving fleet. None answered. On Earth, in a subterranean command center beneath the Appalachian Shield Complex, Admiral Rachel Oren watched the last Concord formation scatter. Her face was lined with exhaustion, but her eyes burned with grim certainty. A young officer turned from his station. Admiral. Our final projection indicates Concord command authority has collapsed. Should we pursue? Oren exhaled slowly. No. Broadcast cessation of hostilities. Offer terms of surrender. He hesitated. They won't accept. They called us monsters. She looked past him, to the holos of Earth's cities, scarred but standing. They called us many things, she said. But they will never call us weak again. When the final message reached the remnants of the Concord High Council, it contained no threats. Only a recording of humanity's first contact, hopeful, open-handed, and the note. We would have been allies. You chose extinction. And so the Concord, who had never known fear, finally learned it. In their arrogance, they declared humanity an enemy. In their blindness, they witnessed their own end.